Welcome, everyone, to the second episode of the Really Big Fan Podcast. A podcast about things that we and people that we know are really big fans of. I'm your host, ChZuck. I'm joined by my co-host, Acronym.
What's up?
And we are here to talk about the things that we're really big fans about this week. As last week, you interviewed me about something I'm a really big fan about. This week, we're turning the tables. And I'll be interviewing you about something you are a really big fan about.
Yes.
That is Tony Hawk.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
The myth,
the man.
the video game legend, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. So, oh man. So we'll start with the headlines in a minute, but let's catch up. How's it going this morning for you?
Everything's going good. I am caffeinated, I am medicated, and I am ready to rock.
Excellent. No caffeine here, but definitely medication and lots of bread.
Oh, I meant this medication.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that medication too. Happy serotonin pills.
Right. I was gonna say I am medicated for sure, but I'm not caffeinated. That is your
that is my territory.
Your realm.
That is the wild part. Just so everybody knows, anytime that Chuck had done overnight radio, he was not caffeinated doing that.
7 years.
7 years of non-caffeinated overnight
7
radio.
7 years of being awake from around 11 o'clock at night until 6 or 7 a.m. and just eating sugar.
Ugh.
All night long.
Horrible.
So much sugar. So it's surprising that I'm not diabetic, but I'm not. So I skated out. I got off light. All right, let's hit them headlines. Starting with news that we actually forgot to cover last week. The first week of our show happened exactly like 3 days after WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania. Was it 40?
They had thought it was 39.
You might be right. I'm gonna look it up real quick. But it was a 2-night WrestleMania. It was Saturday and Sunday night. It was WrestleMania 39.
39, yeah.
So there we go. So it was.
First night was amazing. Second night was awful.
Yeah, I was kind of dancing around it, but that's really.
I'm all about being blunt here.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. We really enjoyed the first night. We went and hung out with the old Wrestle Palace crew. What is the One Fall Show crew? We had Shawnee and we had Erica. We were over at Erica's house. Her dad was there. Her dad is great. My buddy King Mob 4313, who streams on Twitch. So he's been doing
vampire thingy?
No.
Or no, that's Celine.
Yeah, Celine streams that. I'm trying to remember. It's I can't remember the name of the game. But anyways, he dropped by and we had a fun time on Saturday. The card was really good. The matches were really cool. Even matches that I wasn't super invested in ended up being really cool. I thought Rhea Ripley and Charlotte
that was great.
Was probably the best match all night.
They were great.
But I'm glad they ended the night with Sami and Kevin taking the titles off the Usos, because that was definitely the emotional high point of the weekend. And then Sunday we just watched here at home by ourselves because I was prepping for a colonoscopy. And even if I wouldn't have been prepping for a colonoscopy, Sunday sucked.
Yeah, no, Sunday was awful. It was really not entertaining. And the thing that really dropped me with Sunday, and this was a lot of people's issues, is that you built up Cody Rhodes so hard just to take that from him. And I get that they're looking at it from a perspective of we have to build the story and adversity and this and that. But now it's like you built it up so hard and he lost. So now where do you go from here? Now what, he's got to fight, the Miz? What? It seems like bad choice just to get Roman to that 1,000 days. And then some people were like, well, God, what if they tried to beat San Martino's record?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, please, God, no. So we'll see what happens moving forward. And I'm not even a Cody Rhodes person. I sit there and make fun of his theme every time I can. But that build up just seemed like such a waste.
Yeah, that was where the story was supposed to end, because if it doesn't end there, then where?
And if it doesn't end with Jay, it was a waste. That is the only thing. This kind of started with Roman Reigns kind of gaslighting and berating his cousin for so long,
abusing poor Jey Uso.
Yeah, and you could tell that, like, Jimmy was trying to talk to Jay about it, and there was this whole big thing, and this has been going on for years now.
Yeah, like 2 years.
So if this does not turn into a long-term storytelling situation, it was an absolute waste, and they fucked Cody Rhodes. No easy way to say it. It's not Montreal Screwjob level, but it's.
Well, he did get a rubber chicken at the end of the night.
Yeah, so. And he I'm glad he brought it up in his promo though. He's like, I'm laying there on the mat with a rubber chicken.
Right.
If you have not seen those pictures, Cody Rhodes laying on a mat with a rubber chicken.
Somebody in the crowd threw a rubber chicken in the ring, and they got a good shot of him like
laying it next to the rubber chicken,
waking up from his loss with the rubber chicken next to him.
And honestly, like I was glad that there were people that picked it up from past WWE when they first started with Triple H and DX and the whole rubber chicken segment. They're like, long-term storytelling,
right?
Rubber chicken,
right?
So yeah, that was kind of where we landed.
I don't think either of us were really Cody Rhodes marks going into the match, but they did they did the job they usually do when they build somebody over the last 12 months of this is the guy. We're going to make you believe this is the guy. And they did. They made me believe this is the guy. And then they pulled the rug out from under me. I was joking after Monday's Raw afterwards that it felt like Saturday night was booked by Triple H, and then Sunday night and Monday night were booked by Vince McMahon.
Yeah, that's really what it looked like. And honestly, that whole adage that you had where you feel like you've been abused over the years by WWE, that was the moment that I truly felt that.
Yeah,
is watching that. I was like, I don't even like Cody Rhodes. You made me believe that Cody Rhodes was the guy,
right?
And then you did that.
Yep.
What the fuck?
So yeah, wrestling was on a really good upswing between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania.
Everything Triple H touched.
And I always like to say that even if you're not watching wrestling, watch any given year's WrestleMania, and that will give you an indication of where how good or bad things are, which is significantly more difficult now that WrestleMania is 2 nights.
Right.
But I stand by that. I stand by there's definitely years where you can watch a WrestleMania and be like, oof. Stuff wasn't that interesting this year, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing.
Well, and then last year they had a lot to live up to too. You had 2 nights of Stone Cold. You had and then there was this whole anticipation: will The Rock, won't The Rock? And
right,
that never happened.
In Hollywood.
And instead, he sent his best friend Kevin
Hart.
Yeah. Instead,
we can't get The Rock, so we're gonna get the little guy.
We're gonna get Kevin Hart instead. He's significantly cheaper.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, it didn't play out the way that I wanted it to, and it kind of made me lose faith in the product again, and I was really interested in this Triple H version.
Right.
But the minute that Shane McMahon came out the second night, shout out to Snoop Dogg for saving the segment, and the cameraman and the ref.
Amazing. You shared with me there was a camera shot, I don't know if somebody in the crowd took it or what, but there was an angle where people could see the cameraman telling Snoop, punch Miz.
Yeah,
punch Miz.
Punch Miz. And then Snoop did not pull that punch, and you could tell the Miz was not happy about it.
He's not a worker. That's not a working punch.
But it was amusing, and he really did save the segment, because then from that punch, the ref was people's elbow, and he gave the best and worst people's elbow that ever existed, which it was better than his frog splash from AEW. That's all I can say.
True enough.
I showed you that GIF. It's real bad.
Yep. So WrestleMania was good and bad, I guess. If you're going to give us a 2-night WrestleMania and one night's going to be good and the other one's going to be bad, then I guess that's fine.
I'm glad that the good one happened while we were with our friends.
It's better than 2 nights of ugh.
Yes.
Because I think if you'd have swapped them, if Sunday night would have happened first and Saturday night would have happened second.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people watching at home show up for Sunday night after you end Saturday night like that.
Right, yeah, unless they were looking to see, is there anything that's going to be brought up?
Yeah.
That's the only reason at that point. But I am glad we were with, Erica and Eric and Shawnee and everybody when the good stuff was happening.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Hey, we got to hit a pause here. Here's a headline. It is Hall Gaming's birthday.
Aw.
So happy birthday. That's
happy
news.
Birthday, Hall Gaming. That is news. Happy birthday to you. Our birthdays are, 5 days apart? Yeah, mine was Friday. So, hey.
Nice.
Happy birthday to you, sir. And speaking of good things or good times, we went last night and saw the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure, like you can give your opinion, but I think we both had a really great time. I know that I was conscious of the fact that I'd been smiling pretty much the whole time near the end of the movie, like while the credits were rolling. I was like, that was fun. That was good. Like, it's not Shakespeare, and I didn't expect it to be Shakespeare. I expected an entertaining movie aimed at little kids because it's by Illumination who do Minions and stuff like that. So, and you know what? It was exactly what I expected. It was a good time.
Yeah, I really loved it. I went in there and I will totally stick my whole foot in my mouth and drag it through my butt. But Chris Pratt did not do a bad job, you know?
No.
And I was really, I kind of didn't have that problem that I thought I was going to have where I could just hear him the whole time. He really did character acting, which is good. And I feel like everybody did because, like, I don't know Anya Taylor-Joy or anything like that. I don't know, like, her other than when she played, Ileana? Is that her name?
In New Mutants.
Yeah, so I know nothing about her otherwise.
She's had a big couple of years.
Yeah,
she was in that Netflix show.
Menu. And
she was in the Menu. So, like, her star is on the rise. And it's really cool that they tapped her for this particular role. And I thought it's weird because I haven't seen her enough to be able to identify her by voice. But while I was listening to it, I was like, this is fine. She's doing fine. And that's how I felt about just about everybody. Like,
everybody was doing great.
You'd said it's hard for somebody like Jack Black or Charlie Day to not sound like Jack Black or Charlie Day. But at the same time, I was like you're saying about Chris Pratt.
Jack Black sounded great. Like,
he was Bowser.
It was more so like Jack Black did sound like Bowser. Like, he sounded what I would expected Bowser to sound like. So I couldn't really hear it until he started singing.
Yeah.
That's when he sounds...
Singing, you know that's
then
Jack
you're
Black.
like, no, this is Tenacious D. Essentially. And the singing thing, that's not a spoiler. That's been going around. People have already posted it. There's a music video version of it.
To be fair, if it was Tenacious D, it would have been a lot dirtier.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then Charlie Day did a great job. It's just Charlie Day just sounds like Charlie Day.
Yeah.
But it's not distracting. It's just he cannot not sound like Charlie from Always Sunny because that's just his delivery.
It is chock full of Easter eggs. There's stuff going on in the background. There are music cues that you will identify, and they're all fantastic. They're all really good.
And they're not cheesy. They drop in at the right moment and in the right way. Like with something like this, you could go too hard and it would be bad.
Right.
But that was not the case with this. And of course you're going to get your Seth Rogen laugh out of Donkey Kong.
But even then, like,
he was great. The way they did it was
the Donkey
great.
Kong I'm watching would sound like that.
Absolutely.
And I'm not mad about it. I think it's all right. I know that you were you would leaned over and whispered in my ear briefly because of Cranky Kong is in there.
Yes, they retconned Cranky Kong's lineage. Cranky Kong is supposed to be Donkey Kong's grandfather, and in this movie, he is his father.
Yeah.
And it's not important, but it was very actually.
No,
I
think it lends credence to the longtime internet rumor that Cranky Kong is actually the original Donkey Kong. And Donkey Kong from Donkey Kong Country is actually Donkey Kong Jr.
Yes.
So that would explain that. That's just Nintendo confirming canon.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned.
All right, we'll roll with that. But yeah, it's fun overall. There's some good needle drop situations, but it's not abrasive. It's not like I didn't feel like the needle drops were abrasive like they were in Thor: Love and Thunder. Like say whatever you want about Thor's movies in general, but like some of those needle drops are way too blatant in the last movie.
Yeah, I understand.
So I feel like this it was just great all the way through.
So here's a funny thing. Near the end of the movie, Mario wakes up in his bed and his alarm clock goes off and is playing ELO's Mr. Blue Sky, which is the song that starts Guardians 2.
Huh.
On the way to work yesterday, I put in my oldies playlist on Spotify.
Yeah.
And got to work as Mr. Blue Sky started. So when
this is really weird in the movie.
Yeah, when it happened last night, I'm like, wait a second. I was just listening to Mr. Blue Sky 14 hours ago.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah, no, I thought that was fantastic. And I pulled up an article from Kotaku. The Super Mario Bros. Movie just wrapped its first box office weekend and made a ton of money in the process. The 5-day opening run was $204 million in the U.S. and $377 million globally, which beats out Sonic the Hedgehog as the highest-grossing video game movie debut. However, it does not. Let's see. Mario's $204 million opening was the highest ever for a 5-day release, beating out Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, for example. But it does not beat out Avengers: Endgame, which currently holds the record at $357 million. But still, we all, even when we were complaining about Chris Pratt, and we were like, "Oh, this is gonna suck." Like, we all knew we were going to see Super Mario, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, I was going to go either way. I was just like, ugh, Chris Pratt, why? But I'll point this out, too, is that the guy that voiced Super Mario was in the movie.
Yeah, Charles Martinet is in the movie. He plays two different characters, and they're both important to Mario, which is very cool. Like, yeah, I don't want to spoil a whole bunch of the Easter eggs because it's really fun to experience them for yourself. But yeah, he is in there. Also,
I figured that would just make the Chris Pratt thing better. That's why I brought it up.
It does. I saw a video this morning of Keegan-Michael Key hosting Seth Rogen, Jack Black, Chris Pratt, and Charlie Day playing Super Mario Kart.
Oh, nice. That would be awesome to watch.
Spoilers, Jack Black wins.
I'm sure he is not a gracious winner.
Out of the four of them, he's the gamer.
Yes.
So, like, everyone picks their characters from the movie. He picks Toadette.
Yeah.
Because he knows Toadette is smaller and faster than everybody else. And then he drags behind, I think it's Seth Rogen for most of the race in like second or third, and then in the last lap blows by him, which is something you've done.
Yes, that is me.
Mario Kart.
I think that is the clip that I put up of us playing Mario Kart was me blowing by you after you got blue shelled.
It is absolutely.
One more thing, and it's not a spoiler. I'm just giving you a important warning. Yes, stay to the end credits.
Yeah, there's a couple of after credit scenes which lead to, like maybe we'll get a sequel kind of thing. So you definitely want to see those. Plus, the end credits are just entertaining, and the music is good. The medley of all the Mario stuff is good.
You're the only person I know that enjoys watching full end credits. I'm like sitting there like, can we hurry up? Can we hurry up? And every time you're just like, hey, this is awesome. Well, and you're watching it and you're reading it, and I'm just like, this is so fascinating because I've never been that person.
Ever since I was a little kid, I was always interested in the songs that were in a movie, and they always put the music licensing at the end of the end credits. So so even before they started putting scenes in end credits, I've been conditioned to, I want to know what version of that song that is. I want to know who did that version so I can go look it up somewhere.
Gotcha.
Kind of thing.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense.
Even as a little kid, I'm watching Back to the Future and I want to know, like, what's on the sound? What was that one song that played when Marty was waking up and Doc calls him kind of thing? Oh, it's that band. All right, neat. Kind of thing. So yeah, it's that. That was the other thing I noticed yesterday too, is the previews they played for everything, because it's the Super Mario movie. The previews were all PG.
For the most part, yeah.
Which was fascinating, and they played the Guardians preview, which the new Guardians preview looks so fun.
Yes.
It's such a like, here, come and have a good time. We're not going to, like, whereas the Guardians preview we got before that was like, you are going to cry. You
were going to cry through this whole thing, and Rocket may or may not die. And
right.
James Gunn is now like saying on Twitter, like, I didn't say he was dying. And they're just like, shut up, James Gunn. You already made us feel like we were going to cry through this entire movie.
They played the trailer for the Ninja Turtles cartoon that's coming out later this year, the movie that Seth Rogen's doing. And it was cool to see it on a bigger screen because I can really see the animation pop better than I can see it on my phone. But also the scene where Raph's like sai bounces off the wall and goes in Donnie's leg, they didn't show the knife in Donnie's leg. Like, they zoomed the scene in so you couldn't actually see. You just hear him screaming and everyone freaking out. And I was like, it's weird that they change it for a PG audience.
Yeah, I mean, like, are they marketing that movie toward adults or towards kids?
feel like, we'll get into that in a minute, but I feel like it's more like it's for me. It's for nostalgia people.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they're also trying to make sure that like kids are going to be interested in Ninja Turtles. It's Nickelodeon. They want their demographic is kids.
Definitely.
They also played the Barbie trailer, which is
I'm going to beat you off. I'm going to beat you off.
Right. There's a beach off joke at the end of the trailer, which leads me to believe that movie is 100% for us.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely
it's going to have
for adults.
all this humor that the kids are not going to actually understand why the adults are laughing.
No, I don't think it's supposed to be for kids. Like, I think it's supposed to be like an adult-based movie,
right?
Or it's going to be an adult-based movie in the tone of Shrek.
Yeah.
Where like everything has to go over your head.
Yes.
Or else you're going to have a lot of questions.
We get to see the Enter the Spider-Verse trailer on the big screen too, and
which was awesome.
It was absolutely awesome.
Did you see that spot that I was talking about in there where Miles' mom snaps at him after?
Yeah.
So when she snaps at him, it's the Puerto Rican flag, and it's just a really minute detail, but it's really awesome.
It's really cool.
There's also this was in the news, is that in Gwen's bedroom, there is a Protect Trans Kids flag, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and for them to put that in the trailer is great. So that kind of puts that stance out there, and nobody can mess with that.
Hell yeah. All right, let's take a short break and get into our big interview segment. We're going to be talking Tony Hawk Pro Skater with the Tony Hawk Pro Skater master of this house, latest acronym, when the Really Big Fan Pod returns. Welcome back to the Really Big Fan Podcast. You can follow us on social media. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. What am I missing?
I think that was all of them.
Are we on LinkedIn?
No.
Okay, fine.
Why
we're on all of those at Really Big Fan Pod. That's where you can find us on YouTube as well if you want to check out the video version of the podcast. I'm your host, ChZuck. I'm joined by my co-host, Acronym.
Hello.
And as we stated last week, once we get this rolling and we get some guests, we're going to be interviewing people about what they're really big fans about. The whole premise of the show is what makes a person a really big fan of what they really enjoy. But for this week, I'm going to turn the tables. Last week, you interviewed me about Transformers. So this week, I want to talk to you about a video game that is near and dear to your heart, and that is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Absolutely.
So what is your earliest memory of playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater? Like, do you remember the first time you played it?
I mean, maybe not the first like the very first time I played it, but I recall there was a place that you could go after school. When I was in middle school, they had like 4 different areas you could go to, and you would bus to whichever location. You could go to an ice arena, you could go to a pool. There was like a couple different ones, but the closest one, and the one that we could walk to from our school if we didn't want to take the bus, was the ice arena. Upstairs, they had this place called Club Second Floor, and they had TVs on carts that they would roll out with gaming systems, and we had a pool table. There were snacks. We could play music. There was a bunch of different stuff that you could do, and then at like 3 o'clock, we'd go ice skating. So I would go up there after we ice skated and play Tony Hawk.
Sure.
And they had the PS1. And they had Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 was the one that I played the most.
Okay.
And I really didn't play the first one until I got the remaster.
Really?
And like when we were playing this, like I'd played it a couple times, but like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 was always my jam. So that's why I'm a lot better at that one than I am the first one. So like anytime that I played the first one, I was only playing against people.
Right.
So it was more just like playing graffiti. Like, you know, you don't get to play the full levels or whatever. And a lot of the time when I played at the center, it was against other people in general too. I would think so.
Yeah,
I
would think
there was a lot of the time
set up in like a public atmosphere, then obviously they want you to play 2-player, 4-player.
And you
games.
had to do also like a sign-in sheet, so you would like write down at a specific time, so you only got a certain amount of time to play.
Oh, that's cool.
So like people would get kicked off, and then you'd go and do the next one, and you just sign up again. And so like I was always signing up for that game and for Super Smash Brothers. Those were like my 2. They didn't really have. I don't think they had Mario Kart. So we would play Super Smash Brothers a lot.
Nice.
So I got really good at the second one, and then as I got older, I had a copy of the second one for my PS2, I think. maybe.
I don't know
if they had that on PS2. I had a
well,
PS1 as well.
The PS2 was backwards compatible, so you could have been playing the PlayStation 1 version on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, that might have been it. So I had that system when I got, like, I think I might have moved out by the time I had that system. So I was already in my 20s, and I had, like, had Dance Dance Revolution and that and a couple other things, and I'd play Tony Hawk. Well, when they decided they were going to announce the remaster, well, actually backtrack to that. We got those that emulator thing in the bedroom.
I got that little tiny PlayStation and then figured out how to put more games on a card to put it on. So of course.
So we put those on there, and I grass your ass every time we play.
I squeak a victory out here and there, but most of the time, I'm getting destroyed.
And that was more so when I started getting access to the first one.
Yeah.
Because I really, like I said, I didn't really play it before.
That is wild to think that you started with the second game, because, like...
That was the same thing with Banjo-Tooie.
The first one was such a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like, we'd had skateboarding games before, but we'd never had a skateboarding game licensed by a major skateboarder, with,
right?
And like the music had never played that huge of a part of making the game. So, like, I think the music aspect of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater actually lent itself to maybe we can make Guitar Hero.
Yeah, more than likely. And honestly, like, the music is a big part of why I even chose this piece, because I was sitting there going, like, how am I going to bring music into this podcast, you know? That was, like, a big thing for me, and I actually passed on, like, 4 different interview ideas.
Yeah.
Picking this one for the music aspect. And a lot of it was because, you know, I was exposed to so much music through that I never would... When am I going to get exposed to Dead Kennedys and
or
stuff?
Primus?
Primus, like stuff like that. And like for the longest time, I didn't know that Anthrax was like a metal band because of the Bring the Noise cover that they did. And when I saw them at Riot Fest in 2021, I was extremely confused. And Jacob's like, "No, they're a metal band," and I'm like, "But Tony Hawk Pro Skater." And I'm Googling it, and I'm like, I feel like an idiot right now. But that was literally the only Anthrax song I have ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
So, but there was that, and when they did the remaster 1 and 2, they added more music to it. And I'm like, I'm in my 30s at this point. They're adding more music to this, and I'm like becoming obsessed with the artists that they added.
Yeah.
And now they have the OG playlists in there. Don't get me wrong, but like then they added extra stuff. And there was one that I even, it was a rapper named Token. There's a song called Flamingo that plays in there. I went and photographed Token at St. Andrews just because of that song.
Of Flamingo.
I was like, I am going and I am hearing Flamingo. I am going to photograph this kid. He's a kid. Like he's a teenager, like maybe early 20s now.
That's the other thing that fascinates me about you starting with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is that I remember a dozen songs from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I can't remember which songs came from the second game that were standouts.
You know,
it's
I
the
need
first
to
game
look because
that has all the standout tracks. It's got Primus, it's got Rage Against the Machine, it's got the Dead Kennedys, it's got New Girl, what is it, Suicide Machines. Like all of that was game 1. So I'm like, man, what?
Well, then maybe I did play game 1 because I remember those songs though.
Right. Well, I'm sure you did, but it's a matter of like, what were the big tunes out of number 2?
So out of number 2 was When Worlds Collide, Power Man 5000, which you know I'm obsessed with.
That explains why you are obsessed with that song.
My exposure to Rage Against the Machine is Guerrilla Radio from that game.
Oh, so maybe I'm misremembered. Maybe Rage wasn't in the first game.
Evil Eye, Fu Manchu, Subculture Styles of Beyond, You from Bad Religion, The Bring the Noise with Anthrax and Public Enemy.
Interesting.
B-Boy Document 99 from Mos Def, The High and Mighty and the Skills. 5 Lessons Learned from Swinging Utters, Out with the Old, Black Planet and Alley Life, Pin the Tail on the Donkey, Naughty by Nature, May 16th, Lagwagon, Blood Brothers, Papa Roach, Cyclone, Dub Pistols, Heavy Metal Winter, Consumed, and No Cigar by Millencolin.
Yeah, see, like half of that playlist, you're just saying words. Like, I don't remember that song at all.
I'm sure, like, if you heard it, you would know what some of these are.
So what was it about, like you had played other video games, but what was it about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater that made you go like, this is my game? Like, what is it that put it above all other games for you?
I mean, I was really good at it.
That's all it took.
I mean, that was part of it.
You had a natural affinity for it, and you're well, this is my game now.
I liked the music, and in middle school, I really wanted to be a skater.
Yeah.
Like, I was a poser. I was such a poser. Like, I've got a skateboard deck on this wall. I am not good at skateboarding.
Did you ever try riding a skateboard?
Oh, God, yeah. I had a skateboard. I was just bad at it.
Yeah.
I'm not a good physical sport person.
Okay.
So for me, it was like I could ollie. That was pretty much it. I couldn't do anything beyond that.
You got above me because when I went through my skateboarding phase growing up, I couldn't even figure out how to get the thing. Like, I could jump and get it off the ground. I could not land.
Yep.
And like I was eventually it turned into a thing where like Skate or Die was on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and I'm like, I'll just do this.
Yeah. No, it was there was one summer going into I think 8th grade where I skateboarded every day like in the afternoons and stuff, and I would literally like I'd get up and I'd go skate to my friend's house. I'd stop at the liquor store on the way and get a Jones soda.
Yeah.
And skateboard over there and like literally wouldn't eat all day. And I lost like 30 pounds that summer because that's all I would do was I was out skating with my friends. And we weren't good. We were just using it for modes of transportation.
So you must have hurt yourself on the skateboard.
Not really, no. Like, I mean, I fell.
How?
I fell. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, I never broke anything.
You never like sprained an ankle or.
No, and that's the funny part is that
screwed up like an arm.
So I saw this on Instagram like last week where they were posting all of the Got Milk ads for the past like in the 90s. In the 90s, your parents pumped you full of milk. It was like, you're going to eat spaghetti, you drink milk.
Yep.
You're going to eat this, you drink milk. My bones were so strong that when I did actually hurt myself, like years later, my bones wouldn't break.
Oh.
And they were like, you probably would have been better breaking it than tearing ligaments. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, this is all from all that milk in the 90s.
Yeah.
So when I would fall, I wouldn't really do anything. I'd twist an ankle, it'd be sore for a couple of days, whatever. I would more so fall like on my elbows and scab them up and whatever.
That's always been my fear after not drinking milk for like 30 years is that like
your bones are
my
brittle.
bones. Yeah, my bones are like bird bones. They're probably just like fine china.
Well, that's why I'm afraid now of those. You used one of those electric scooters downtown.
Yeah.
And like that terrifies the hell out of me. And it's
Which
because I have fell. Like, I know what it's like to, fall off a skateboard or whatever, or fall off a bike, or fall just walking because I'm a klutz. And so when I look at those scooters, they scare the crap out of me because I know, like, if you hit an uneven piece of pavement, like, you're done for. And so that's kind of been the whole thing. I want to, like, I had thought about putting wheels and trucks on that and trying to skate again, but I'll probably just waste myself and we don't need medical bills.
So what came first, your love of skateboards or Tony Hawk? Like, did Tony Hawk lead you to I want to ride a skateboard, or did you ride a skateboard and then be like, oh, it's a video game about riding a skateboard, I should, I want to try, It was
definitely the video game first in the culture at the time frame.
Sure.
A lot of the people that I was around that I went to school with, like all the guys were skaters. All the guys we had crushes on were skaters.
Right.
We were dressing in like Vans and Element and all that stuff. I had like my grandpa kept buying me skate shoes because he was like, you need good shoes and stuff like that. So I was always kind of part of that. PacSun was like a really big thing for us when we were teenagers. And so a lot of it was, the culture, the clothing and everything else. But we wouldn't have known about any of that had it not been Tony Hawk, because there were it's not like there's skate parks out here.
Sure.
There wasn't back in the day.
Yeah, I know there's one in like Madison Heights.
Yeah.
A big deal.
All of those were not around at the time. Even like the ones that are downtown now, there's like one on the Riverwalk that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's super cool. There's one that's like off the side of the Davison Freeway that's completely graffitied up, and it looks like it looks like a Tony Hawk thing. I just bumped my mic. It looks like a Tony Hawk thing, and so like, but all of that really wasn't accessible to us, especially like most of our parents were not gonna take us to Detroit to go skateboarding, and the Riverside one just opened like a couple of years ago. The closest thing we had was at some point, I think it was in high school, they opened a skate park. They opened like a Vans skate park in Fountain Walk in Novi. And we used to go and hang out there, but never skated inside it. It was to go to hang out with the guys who were going to skateboard.
Right.
And so they say I was a poser. But like all of that all comes from Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Sure.
I really believe that overall. I don't think anybody would have been interested in it had we not.
Well, and the specific music that the culture picks, so especially when it comes to the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, it's varied, but it's also kind of focused.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get your ska and you get your punk music, which is a big part of it. But then you also, like, you looking at the playlist for the second one, you get quite a bit of rap and hip hop in there as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of hip hop that, like, I didn't have. I mean, we had Channel 95.5 and 93.1 DRQ. And those were exposing us to mainstream hip-hop, but it wasn't the same. Like, it wasn't ludicrous that we were hearing here. We were hearing more of, like, classic hip-hop and what it sounded like. And it was always nice that, like, Tony curating these playlists, because he curates these a lot of the time. I'm sure there's probably some add-ons now. I don't think that he picked to put Machine Gun Kelly on his soundtrack this time around.
I don't know, maybe he did.
Maybe he did. If he was going to pick something else, I wouldn't have picked Bloody Valentine, though. That's the way he curates
it. I think the way he curates it, though, is that, like, even in the old days, they would, like, give him a list of songs that they could get the rights to. That they could get the licensing and he'd be like, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one.
Yeah, because it surprises me there's never been a Blink-182 song, at least not in the ones that I know of.
I remember us talking about that.
We were talking about that before.
New one came out, and
like
it's
Offspring,
wild.
stuff like that. Like, I don't know if those popped up probably a little bit later, like when they got into the Teenage Wasteland or whatever it was called.
Tony Hawk secretly has a feud with Dexter Holland and refuses to put an Offspring song in the game.
Maybe, that
guy's hot sauce was bunk. I ain't putting no Offspring in my game.
I'm not putting no guy with a PhD in my game.
They put their song in Crazy Taxi before I got to put a song in. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. No, but, like, I know that there are. I'm not as familiar with the games that come after.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, where did they kind of lose you?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily like I wasn't interested in it. I grew up in a poor household, so I only had a specific system.
And then,
I didn't even have a PlayStation until I got older.
Yeah.
So my exposure to it was being at friends' houses or being at second floor. I never had a PlayStation in that house. And so for me, like, I had all Nintendo stuff.
Yeah.
So I grew up with, like, the Super Nintendo. I think I had access to a Nintendo. I think we rented it, though.
Like the original NES?
Yeah, they had, when you would go to Blockbuster and then they had, like, Family Video later on, you could rent an entire system.
Yeah.
So
it always came in the big suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I'd sometimes rent the older systems and play with those. But I had a Super Nintendo, which is where my Donkey Kong obsession comes from.
Yes.
And then had the N64. So
I think Donkey Kong Country is the only franchise you played the first one first.
Yes, because Banjo-Tooie is the second one.
Yeah.
And so when I have the Banjo-Kazooie on the Switch, I have no clue what I'm doing. So for me, once they were like, oh yeah, well there's rumblings about a remaster. I got real geeked about it. And, like, I don't get geeked like that about games. No,
me. Yeah, like it's really it's an event when you're like, ooh,
into a
that
real
looks
game,
really good.
or like Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, where you didn't have access to the Switch for like 2 weeks because I was just like immersed. Yep. Like, nope, I'm hyper focusing on this. Don't talk to me. I'm playing Pokemon, and that is one of those things where when I saw that they were gonna do Tony Hawk Pro Skater and they were going to do 1 and 2 remaster, I was like,
put them together.
I need this thing. And so when it came out, like immediately when it came, I think we even pre-ordered it.
I pre-ordered
you
the
pre-ordered
digital version
for me, which is a sin to him because he always wants a physical copy.
I like having physical copies of stuff.
So I was like, I need it, and I need it right now. And he's like, okay, pre-saved it. I played it on the PS4
so
and
have it the second
I could do it. I was having a blast with it and everything else. And then he gets me a Switch, and I decide, like, I need to have it for the Switch. And on Nerd Radio, we actually had a fake yelling match about why do you need 2 copies of this? Right. And I was like, but if I have it on my Switch, then I can play it in my office. I can play it when I'm on the road. I can play it. Like, I need it. And the only reason he was telling me no was because he'd already bought it for me and was waiting to give it to me for Christmas.
I was doing the parental thing where, like, I'm trying to divert your attention away from a thing that I've already gotten you so that you will not go and get it before I give you the copy.
And so he got me a physical copy for the Switch. So I've been playing it for the past couple of weeks on my Switch again.
But recently. why have you been playing it for the past couple of weeks?
Because I knew I was going to stream it, and I needed to remind myself, like, the move set, and I wanted to look good.
You wanted to be good
at it.
You wanted to be good
at
it.
It's one of those things too where, like, when I've streamed Banjo-Tooie, I play it a couple days first before to get, like, the bearings again, make sure I know what moves they are.
Right.
Because I don't want everybody to sit there and watch me trying to figure it out again. Like, that's boring. Like, you want to show the action, right?
Right.
So, like, for me, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna re-up my knowledge base on this, and then what I want to do is I'm eventually gonna try to stream it with, like, maybe the next week or something, but I want to speed run through them. So
you keep saying that. You keep using the term speedrun. I don't think you...
I may not be using it the right way.
Right, because speedrun usually means that I'm going to finish the game as fast as possible.
Yeah, no, my interpretation of speedrunning is I'm going to play this game as, like, throughout the segment that I'm playing it, I'm going to play it from start to where I can stop it. Kind of like what we were doing with Donkey Kong, but I'm not passing the controller. I'm just playing it and going like, okay, let's see how fast I can get through all these levels while I'm on camera.
Interesting.
So, like, I've done that before with Donkey Kong where I started from the beginning.
Sure.
On like when I was trying to stream on my own account, where I would start at the beginning and see how far I could get within that, like, 2-hour stream.
Yeah.
And then not play it again, and then start at that point the next stream and see how far I get. So, like, yeah, it's not technically a speed run, but, like, in my head, that's the speed run. So that's kind of what I mean by that.
So look forward on this channel, the Really Big Fan Pod, to when you finally start playing Tony Hawk, because with all the licensed music, you're probably going to have to watch it live or it's going to get all blanked out.
Yeah, true. I mean, does that happen when they license it in a game still? Because I figured it was only getting blanked out for our Rock Band stuff when...
No, the Guardians of the Galaxy game that's got all the licensed music in it has an option to turn all the licensed music off. It's called the streaming mode.
Streaming mode, yeah.
So that you don't get flagged.
I think that people, when they do the how-tos on YouTube, a lot of them do that too.
Yeah,
they shut it off so that their video doesn't
the
get
audio
flagged,
off. Yep.
but also so they can monetize it.
Yep.
Because the monetization will obviously screw with you, which is probably why they're blanking it out in here too, is because you're a Twitch affiliate.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's also Metallica, DMCA.
All right, well, I'm sure we'll talk about Tony Hawk more.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I'm sure you guys will get to watch Acronym play some Tony Hawk very soon on this channel. We're going to take a short break here in our second episode. When we come back, we've got our serotonin hit. Is that the right?
Serotonin boost.
It's our serotonin boost for the week as we ended this week's Really Big Fan Pod. Next. Welcome back to the Really Big Fan Pod. It is our second episode. I'm sitting here with Acronym. I am your host, ChZuck, and we're having a good time. We just got done talking about some Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I prepared a quiz for you last week about Transformers. I don't believe you prepared a quiz for me. So
I mean, I could give you a quiz real quick if you wanted to.
Let's find out. What have I learned? What have I learned about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater?
What is one of the songs that I mentioned that you don't know from the first one that you recognized from the second one? When I read you the list.
Wait a minute. So what is one of the songs that was on the second game?
Yes.
Dub Pistol Cyclone.
Okay.
I know because I remember having the CD for that and then playing the second one and being like, oh, Cyclone, cool. I love this song.
In your limited play experience, who did you choose when you played?
Ooh, I think oh man, there was like one girl.
Elisa Steamer.
Yep, Elisa Steamer. That was my girl. I was like, oh, good, because you know me.
Yeah.
If I get to pick a girl in a video game, that's what I'm gonna pick.
I go back and forth. I would either pick Elisa Steamer or Kareem Campbell.
Okay, why Kareem?
I thought that his skate style was cooler.
That's cool.
Like his spin style was more interesting.
Right.
With Elise, it was just pick a girl. But with
characters in Tony Hawk are like characters in Mario Kart to me. I know there's a statistical bonus and subtraction for every character, but I don't know what it is.
I just felt like after I played, because like I tried playing Bucky Lasik a couple times.
Yeah.
I think that's how you pronounce his name.
I think I probably picked Tony a lot.
And I would play
Tony,
and like out of those guys, I think there was one more that sometimes I would grab, and I don't remember who it was. But yeah, for Kareem, I felt like his spin style was different. I don't know if that's entirely accurate, but like off the top of my head, I would hope
that they did that.
Yeah,
they, like,
it was
each
like
had their own move set.
Jump switch spins, like just had a little bit more flair to it. So, and like I just felt like he was a cool, interesting character overall, like street style. I'm trying to think. Maybe is there one more question that's in my head?
Yeah, it's got to be 3. Got to be 3.
Have you ever played it on the Switch? Did I ever have you play it on the Switch?
I think we played on the Switch once. I think we played like some graffiti or stuff on the Switch.
I was gonna say, like, the third question could be like, what was the handling like? Do you like the PlayStation handling better, or like we played it on that thing too in the bedroom? The small mini.
I think the controls are better on the newer versions than they are on the original versions. I think the Switch version is fine as long as I'm playing with I like the controller. And that's because
you like having the actual controller.
That's because my Joy-Cons are all goofy.
Yeah, it's interesting to play it on the Switch, like having it in the hands like this. I had to kind of relearn how to do it.
Right.
Because there is actually, if you go into the back of the game and you like dick around with the settings, you can actually set it to classic 1 or 2 controls. And so I set all my controls to 2 controls.
Interesting.
That way, it was what I remembered muscle memory. Because I think if you remember when I played it the first time out there, and I played it on the PlayStation, I was like, why is this so weird? And I was doing really bad.
Right.
And it's because I only play by muscle memory. So I needed to switch the controls. And when I found out you could do that,
I had, for a brief amount of time, I had whatever Tony Hawk it was that was on the PSP, the original PSP. And I nearly threw my PSP. I was like, a Tony Hawk game on a portable system seems like a recipe for disaster to me, because they can be so difficult. And plus, you're doing this with the controls and moving them back and forth, and like, and now you're moving the screen as well, so I can't see what I'm doing. Like, it seems like a recipe for disaster.
I don't have as much of a problem, but you hear how much I swear when I'm playing it.
I do. I heard you in here the other night when I think I was playing Zelda, and you were in here on the couch playing Tony Hawk, and I heard you like
just me going, oh my fucking God.
Yeah, and I was like,
oh!
I was like, what is she doing in there? I was like, oh wait, she's playing Tony Hawk.
Yep, no, I curl up in that corner against, I take the Grogu that's behind me, I put it over in that corner, and I just sit there with my legs up, and then I have Daredevil on your TV. Which leads us right to the serotonin boost.
All right, well, go ahead. I'll let you start this week. What's giving you a serotonin boost this week?
I am a repeat watcher. I'm an obsessive repeat watcher, and you've learned this because I won't watch something new. I'll watch something old over and over again while I'm doing other things. And it's mostly I do that because like A, it's familiar and I know how it ends, so I don't have to pay attention. But B, like it's interesting, and it feeds that ADHD thing in my brain where it's like I need to do multiple things at once. So if I'm doing something like, say I'm working on my website or I'm editing or something like that, I usually have my iPad next to me running something on either Disney Plus or Netflix or anything like that. So I've been obsessively watching Daredevil over and over again and the Defenders series. So I always go 1 and 2, Defenders, and then season 3, because that's how they work chronologically.
Right.
And so I've been having a lot of fun with that because I'm really excited for when they do the Disney Plus version, despite the changes that they've been making so far. So far, we know that the characters that played Foggy Nelson and Karen Page will not be returning. At least it has not been announced as of yet. There's going to be other characters that change. The person that played Vanessa is going to change.
Okay.
Which is Wilson Fisk's wife.
Right.
they are recasting her, which I found weird, but okay. I love Vincent D'Onofrio. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but he is an amazing villain, even if he has to wear a Hawaiian shirt. So I'm stoked to see that and Charlie Cox getting back into the mix, and I hope it is as dark. I don't need the gore. Like, I can live without the gore, and they said they're going to go lighter on the gore. But until then, I'm just, like, obsessively rewatching it, and I would really love to see another Defender series. There has been some rumblings of that. There's a picture of Mike Coulter and Kristen Ritter that hit social media, and so I don't know if they're maybe discussing if they're going to do this again.
Right.
But it really only works if you get everybody back. Like, you would have to bring back Iron Fist, and they said that actor was a little difficult, so we'll see. But until then, I'm really stoked to at least have Charlie Cox back as Daredevil.
And you're just enjoying watching the original series, which was very good.
Yeah, I love the in and outs of it, and I love the how dark it is. And I have the stack of comics sitting next to the bed. I have not gone into them yet.
You're not
but
a
I've
big
got
comic reader.
No, I'm not.
You don't have to be.
You know, and it's interesting because when I initially was thinking about talking about this as the interview piece, my headspace with it is that I feel like me watching Daredevil so much kind of displaced some of my Batman feelings.
Yeah.
Because Daredevil is very much like Marvel's Batman. People will argue that it's Tony Stark because of the money, but I really feel like that element of the dark criminal underbelly is very Daredevil. And so it makes sense why I'm interested in it.
Sure.
So, but I'm going to eventually read them. I have Man Without Fear sitting there, and then Chris Brown from Comics and More gave me a full trade of it.
Yeah, it's the Frank Miller stuff with Elektra and Bullseye. So.
Yeah. So that's basically kind of all what the show is based on.
Right.
So I really just need to train myself to not be on my phone when I go to bed and read a comic
to pick up a comic. That's what I do when I go to bed. Is I read 2 comics, and by then I'm sleepy and I'm going to bed.
You mean you try to read 2 comics while I stoned talk to you?
Well, while you're stone talking to me, and while the cats are hopping up and getting, in the way because they don't want Dad reading, they want Dad cuddling.
Yes.
Well, for my serotonin boost this week, I want to talk about a game that I got for my birthday on Friday, and that is Atari 50, the collection. I picked it up for the Switch. I had seen back when it came out in November or December, I had seen it, and I was like, that's a cool idea. And I love collections of old games anyways. I think 4 or 5 of my Switch games are collections of SNK games or Capcom games or the Turtles collection. And I'd had 3 different podcasts do episodes on it and say that it was quite possibly the greatest classic game collection of all time. And the reason for that is that in addition to having 100 old Atari games on there, it's got all of this. It's got this timeline with all of these pictures and instructions and the flyers and the design notes and these videos that you can click on and go through the whole history of Atari and see what some of the people that were programming it, what they thought of the game and where it started. And the video parts are the best parts of the game. I think you were sitting in the room when I was watching the video part about there was 2 of the higher ups. There was there were no drugs in the offices at Atari, and then they immediately cut to the guy who made Yards of Revenge, and he was like, I smoked pot in the office every day.
And that was hysterical. Honestly, the music curation in the background of the thing.
It's one music track, and it plays behind it. And it's kind of like a lo-fi kind of, but it definitely it sets the 70s, early 80s mood for what you're doing. The emulation seems pretty spot on for all the games for the ones that I've played.
I was just surprised at how intricate the whole thing is. I was sitting there and looking at all the timelines that you're going through and all the different games that are in there and stuff, and it's kind of like a historical document within a game. And this also led me to going also questioning if you're autistic. Right. We're both questioning if we have autism traits, and that is definitely one of them. It's I'm going to read and watch every single piece of this information so I learn every single thing about the Atari.
It's interesting. One of the podcasts that I'd listened to, one of the hosts had said that it's like having an interactive History Channel documentary kind of thing, and that's really how it is. There's also new versions of some of the classic games, which are really fun to play around with, kind of add, because that's one of the things I discovered as I was going through some of the classic arcade games is once you played it once, you played it kind of thing. Like, you could play it more and try and get the high score, but like, okay, I've experienced Centipede. I know I've seen everything Centipede does. And if I've got one complaint, it's that because of the nature of certain games, the license, there are definitely big games that are missing, like the E.T. game or Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
There's like a handful of them that I kind of wish were in there and couldn't possibly be because they'd have to get the license to whatever movie it was based on or television show. But it is absolutely worth the money. I waited until it was like $30, but I think it was only $40 at release. And I was like, that's when games are usually $60. $40 is pretty good. And then but I'd also told myself, it was like, okay, so money's a little tight and Christmas is already come and gone. So if by my birthday they've dropped the price, then I can have that game. And they did. So I got it, and very pleased with it. It's been very fun to re-experience a bunch of stuff from my youth. I love the ads they've got in there too, like the old ads from like 79 and 1980 about the computers and stuff. It's really, really fun.
So how many collections do you have now with that? Because there are multiple games that they've released on the Switch that are collection based.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like the Turtles collection, I've got the SNK one, I've got the Sega Genesis collection. There's still like 3 or 4 I don't own.
Yeah.
That either aren't games that I'm super into. Like there's a Street Fighter collection, and I want it, but I'm not gonna play it. Yeah. Like I just want it to see what the bonus material in it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I don't play a lot of Street Fighter 2, and it's got like 7 versions of Street Fighter 2. I'm gonna play all of them once or twice and be like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Kind of thing.
I like the Turtles one. That one's probably my favorite.
The Turtles one. That Turtles one is really, really well done.
I feel like that one Mario Party one is kind of a collection, but I didn't like that.
Yeah, where they just kind of took a couple of the old games and the old levels and put them together. I think the problem is, and we were just talking about this in the last segment, is that our primary exposure to Mario Party was on the Switch, and the Switch has kind of the waggle controls for some of the stuff, and the Mario Party collection is strictly a controller-based game, and it loses something.
Well, that wasn't even my problem with it. It's a lot harder.
It was a lot harder.
For some reason, they like upped the level of how difficult it is. Yeah. And it's like the stakes are a little bit higher, but it's harder to achieve with the boards that they have. Yeah. I don't know. Like the Super Mario Party is what it's called.
Mario Party 8. Super Mario Party 8.
Yeah, so that's the one that I like.
Yeah, that's the one we play all the time.
And then the other one was like what, All Stars or something?
Yeah, Mario Party Collection, I think it was called.
I thought it was like Mario Party All-Stars.
Well, it's because there was Super Mario All-Stars. It's the one Switch collection that I've actually gotten rid of. Because it was like Mario 64, Mario Galaxy, and Mario Sunshine. And never played Sunshine, never played Galaxy. Sunshine's a fucking nightmare. Galaxy seemed cute and fine, but like I was so furious with Sunshine after an hour. I was like, no. And never been a big Mario 64 guy.
Yeah. I feel like Mario 64 was then coded and improved to be Banjo-Kazooie.
To a degree. That's what I always felt about Mario 64 is it felt like a tech demo. It felt like there wasn't enough there. Mm-hmm. But, at the same time, people love Mario 64. So I'm in the minority. Mm-hmm. People think Mario 64 is fantastic and good form. Actually, that was something I wanted to tell you, too. I looked it up. There's the little character that has the little kid's voice that says all the depressing stuff in the movie.
In the Mario movie?
That's one of the shines from Mario Galaxy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That.
Because you were like, what is that from? And I'm like, I don't remember.
Yeah, that I'm not going to spoil anything that's about that character, but that character is going to make you laugh.
Yeah. definitely a standout character in the movie. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Really Big Fan Pod. Thank you guys for, we do this Wednesday afternoons at 11:30 on Twitch, twitch.tv/Really Big Fan Pod. It's where you can hang out with us when we record these live and hang out in the chat like Hall Gaming 412 and HD Turkey Dogs is done for this week's show. Thank you guys so much for joining us this Wednesday morning. And as always, you can look forward to the video dropping on Thursday night on YouTube. It's also Really Big Fan Pod, I'm guessing, right? Yep. And then on Friday morning, we'll be dropping the podcast, the audio version of that. That will go up on Spotify. I think we're still having problems with Google and Apple Podcasts, but hopefully
those two haven't popped yet.
We'll get those ironed out in the next week or two, but it's on Spotify and all your other podcasting, Podbean. all your other podcasting things. So make sure you join us there. Make sure you're following us on social media. You can find out whenever we're live on our channel, and you can follow along with all the cool videos and stuff that we're posting.
Yeah, we've got extra content that we're posting, things that we're talking about during the stream, things that we're talking about when we're gaming itself, some funny clips, major fails and whatnot.
Yep.
So those are all going to be great. And if you haven't taken a look at our Transformers video yet, that has been popping pretty well as Optimus Prime sending a message to ChZuck.
For sure.
So go and check it out.
And then make sure you're following us on Patreon, because if we can get enough of you guys giving us just a couple of bucks a month, then we can afford to do this.
And we're very thankful to everybody that has chipped in so far. Thank you so much.
We've already got, I believe, 3 patrons, and we are very, very appreciative. We're going to start trying to figure out what we're going to do for tiers as far as what kind of cool rewards we can give you on Patreon. And follow us over at patreon.com/reallyBigFanPod, and join us next week for more of the Really Big Fan Podcast.